each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge.
It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
You mentioned to him that dark spirits were being force immigrated here. Caller, if you will, hang on for just a moment, and Andrew, give us a minute or two on that.
Okay. We'll just say 560,000 years ago is when all of this crazy stuff on our world began to happen. What happened is a group of multidimensional beings who understood the way the universe worked, who had been battling the creator of the galaxy. There's a creator in every galaxy. That's the first thing first. So one galaxy has a creator, and then there are millions of galaxies in a universe. If you have two galaxies, you have two creators, but they're all one and the same. So all of the galaxies combined make a universal creator. Well, these beings were fighting the galactic creator of this world, the one that sets up the rules for this galaxy. Another galaxy had been called in to help them deal with these multidimensional beings. Well, what happened is the multidimensional beings that were of darkness and against the creator had their own galaxy and brought in the concept of war here. Many of the spirits weren't ready. And what happened is, technologically wise, the invading galaxy did not have the technology to beat us boots on the ground, but they had enough technology to figure out how the incarnation grids of the planets work. So what they would do is, on their home worlds, they would rip a soul out of a body and fill it full of just as much energy as they could in power, so power corrupted, and then they would shoot it across the galaxy and it would smack against the astral worlds of Earth, and then they would be stuck there in the astral worlds waiting to incarnate with specific rules, and that began what's called a migration invasion. And at the same time, the other forces in the galaxy were, whoa, how do you deal with this? They tried to get together and stop it, but before they could, these multidimensional beings, they're so giant, what they would be is one of their souls would take 7 or 8 million bodies to put in. That's how big they are. So what they would do is make tiny sparks of themselves and make several million of themselves, and they would interbreed with the people here on the planet so they could make soul groups that their dark souls could come into, so that they could fight it from the inside on the macro layers of Earth, interacting with the Akashic records of this planet. We'll also learn that Earth is a very, very old planet, and it was meant to be a galactic seed planet, so its concept was a seventh dimensional world that everything was life here. There are 200 chakras on Earth that are strictly for womb energy, for pregnancy energy, and they would make trees, plants, people, whatever was needed to populate another planet. And as this stuff would go from womb state to physical state, it would be transported to our moon, and then our moon would psychically project this DNA wisdom to another new planet, and then that planet would make soul contracts with people to come in it and live upon it. The forces of domination and control understood this mechanism, and they began to abuse it in all different areas. On particularly Earth was a big prize because it contains womb chakras where it can create all these new forms of life. And to travel the galaxy, you have to use the sun as a stargate, and that gate gets you to other parts. And our sun, particularly, is advantage is it can connect to several million planets or solar systems at once. Where many other planets, their suns can only connect to 10, 20, or 30. So it's like a massive hub network. And Earth and the solar system we're in is literally in between the outer edges of three separate galaxies where they intersect, and it makes a little semicircle, and we're locked in between the karmic exchange of three different galaxies. These multidimensional beings invested here literally became millions of themselves. At one point they were like half the planet was of these 15 multidimensional beings, and it was literally a balance and a tug of war between how much you were going to let them in versus the other free world spirits that were migrating here. And it got so bad that the prime creator of 3 galaxies came together and made a unified source, and it said we're going to set up a Council of 12, and that Council of 12 was to be the administration of the incarnation grid here. It had 4 members of the darkness, 4 members of the light, and 4 members of the neutral societies. And what they would do is would set up the incarnation grid of who could come in and who could come out. But because there were so many multidimensional beings physically existent in thousands of versions of themselves with a hive mind off-world controlling the chess game, they were able to outmaneuver many of the others to the point all of the neutral people were kicked out and the darkness had more seats on the council, and then shifted the incarnation rules and allowed fine print contract in. The original prime creator who set up that rule said in 560,000 years there will be an audit, and that audit happened on March the 20th, 2013. Everything we've been fighting for has been going on for 560,000 years was about that audit date, because those 2,000 separate bloodlines that have been fighting over this planet were supposed to be merged into a single bloodline species so we could be healers to the galaxies. That's ultimately what this is about. It's all about the technology on this world, and the technology is the skin suit that you wear, that you incarnate in. And with this skin suit, you'll be able to go to other planets and work with their DNA.
All right, so that begs the question, why here?
Why here? And the answer is, Earth is a galactic nursery. It's its answer from the very beginning. Earth is the prize. Whoever lives here can create, multiply, co-create, and the organisms that here naturally are attached to the Earth's hive DNA and hive mind can respawn life. That life can be taken to the moon, where it was allowed to be adapted to being into a different environment than Earth, and then can be transported to another planet in mass to begin literally sodding and seeding and layering new forms of plant life into barren places, to make massive nurseries in other parts of the galaxy, to set up a network where all of the microorganisms that are needed to make compost where there is only rock.
All right,
That's
yeah, you got plenty.
That's why we as people that graduate from Earth are allowed to become co-creating beings and take out that mission to Earth, which is to go and be the gardeners of the galaxy, plant the life.
Now, Andrew, the soul language, we spoke a little bit about that last week on air and a little bit off air. Do you want to talk about what that actually is and how it works?
Our soul contracts are written in soul language. We've heard the term a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, each piece of soul language is like 10,000 telepathic pictures that expand the meaning of each aspect of the soul contract. So we understand that the soul contract functions on the Akashic record level, and it's part of the dossier of that soul recorded through the Akashic records. The soul contract language is written in a neutral perspective, and fine print is written in a polarized perspective. I'll give an example of soul language. Ushmanete kumotish momati tatatash mupate kenana ish momone hanati pukatesh amanitao. That's an example of part of a soul contract that's indicating that I am come from free will, I remain in free will, and I shall not have anything in polarization within my sacred neutral expression.
Wow, it actually sounds a little bit like some of the Native American languages. Any relationship?
Many of them are very related to that. Because it's in the cadence, the vibration, and then the energy of heart energy you put behind it.
So the soul language needs to be a spoken contract. The contracts are spoken rather than written ultimately.
When you're changing a contract, you need to speak it. When you're reading a contract, it can be telepathic. I'm at a point where I can telepathically read it and translate it into the human ear linguistics. But much of the soul contract is an experience more than a language.
Okay, how does that work if you're having an experience? The soul contract is something which enables you to have an experience.
Correct.
And I guess my question is in what way is the formation of the contract? Is the experience itself the formation of the contract, or do you actually go through a thumbnail of the experience first?
Sort of a thumbnail. When you're a soul making a soul contract, you don't really use language. You're in a telepathic state. And because you're not in the 3D matrix, you're making a good guesstimation and assumption of what the experience is. Mm-hmm. And you're giving that linguistics and soul language form as you're going through the birth canal and go through the forgetting process. So that you are giving the predictive experience you want, and the other souls that you're making soul contracts give you their predictive experience. That's essentially what the contract is. Some souls are really, really good at predicting the way the culture will interpret the contract, and then the negative fine print comes to change the intuition nature of the predictive contract.
Now, the negative fine print is coming from the hijacked aspect of the incarnation grid, I presume.
Correct.
Okay, and is that tailored for each person, or are they basically sticking in the same fine print in everyone's contract?
Generally, it's how do I describe it? Depending on the type of soul family you come from, it's pretty general. But if they've identified your soul family and soul group before and have labeled you as one that requires specific attention, you'll get specific attention. And that's why people come in with really complex contracts and screwed up crown chakra wiring jobs. Or right away they become an aggressive child or become autistic or come in and become a drug user their first 20 years and all of a sudden become sober and turn out to be an incredible healer. And souls will purposely create the screwed up wiring job in complex contracts so they aren't detected during the birth process.
We're seeing a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
Autistic kids that suddenly become savants or geniuses completely unexpectedly. So yeah, that's extremely interesting. And creating, actually removing the fine print or stepping away from a soul contract is something that can be done, provided you know how to do it.
At will.
on your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, my name is Frankie, and I'm calling from Northern Virginia.
Hi, Frankie. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
How can I help you?
Well, I'm interested in, I guess, having you tune into me to help me determine how to connect to Source so that I can be active in healing a family member and position myself in the right category for a new job and soul advancement.
Okay, that's fine. What I need you to do is tell me your first 10 minutes of your day. You need to compact it to 40 seconds, but be detailed from the second you woke up. What I'm doing is reading the dream behind you.
Okay, the first 10 minutes of my day, I was actually listening to your pre-recorded tape with Mr. Purdy.
Yep.
And making a pot of coffee and realizing that it was a beautiful sunny day and thinking that I was probably exactly where I needed to be to hear the message.
I've tuned into you.
Okay.
I got a question. When you were listening to that, is there something that jumped out at you? Because right now there's this lightning storm of positive energy in your crown chakra.
Just that I probably needed to get better driving directions in terms of exactly maybe how to expedite being in the right place at the right time, or just getting back to the basics, incorporating what I need to stay and connect to the source. It's become, there were a couple of things like the soul group that I'd never really thought about before, and my soul contract, and just figuring out again what it is and where I'm supposed to be.
Okay. Right now, there's a whole lot of energy that's going through you. And there's a reason why. You're actually going through what's called a crown chakra rewiring. The spirit that is you that came in here came with a specific set of wiring so that it wouldn't be noticed by the powers of domination and control. So you have to understand you've been in a cloaking mode for these conversations, for these... just a second, I have someone calling in. Okay. So you're going through a rewiring process here. You were not allowing the forces of domination and control to literally see your spirit. So you wired your crown chakra so whenever anything would remote psychically view you, it would see this spaghetti mess of wiring and then assume you were a person that didn't plan your lifetime correctly and that it could come back and feed on you later at another time. Well, now your energies have changed. You've experienced the December the 21st in a relatively neutral perspective, and you've moved on. And now as you're beginning this awakening process, your spirit guides are coming to you in dream time, and they're taking you out of your dreams into an education place where you have the rest of your soul group is being rewired at the exact same time. You're all using the same wiring plan. You're a telepathic soul group who came to this world from a moon of Alcyon called Nabosh, and you're like a school of fish species. It's a water world that you come from, and it's more like a tarpon. And there's not a food chain on this world. There's plenty of plankton for everything to eat. Though some species will butt heads and will like ram into each other to protect territory, but they don't actually fight or kill each other. So killing is a completely foreign concept to your soul. You chose to come here at the point when the whales were being hunted the most and they were giving a call out for new ocean spirits to return to Earth and to keep the waters bound to Earth's soul. So you came here as what's called a water reaver. All right, you close to water spirits?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, you're still awakening to these energies. I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to be the great psychic within, you need water around you. You need running water. If you have none in your area, you should make water features. That is what's going to get your spirit into the highest gear. It's going to be allowed to commune to your higher soul so you can understand that you came into this lifetime with a free set of karma, and that's because you came in with the screwed up illusionary wiring that was hiding you. And as you go through this rewiring process, you're going to connect to sea-based animals and mammals. You're going to naturally be able to telepathically talk to them.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what do you do with that information? You're still in the state of, oh my, what do I do? I'm awakening. Well, it means that you have to explore yourself. It means you have to take time to learn what it is, the things about the ocean, be reconnected to that fuel, that energy, that searcher within that understands every advance into life is about understanding the old person, why the old person was led astray or led to the right place. What can be your goals for the future? How can you look back on the self with 20/20 vision and know that a future version of you is planting seeds so the present version of you will have crops to eat? Okay, that's the dreamer inside of you. You're going to have to connect to your dreams again. You're going to have to consciously tell your dream time before you go to sleep, I wish to remember more of my dreams. I wish to be more a part of this.
Okay.
Is this making sense to you?
Okay. And is there is it something that's going to be happening between now and, say, the fall?
This is literally at your free will. You can initiate this anytime. You could have actually initiated it in early January. You just hadn't met enough of your old soul group yet. What I'm thinking is that somehow maybe you crossed someone on a street or on a highway, and that person was a part of your soul group. And it was one of those coinkydink synchronistic moments that you two were able to grok energy even though you never knew each other. And it kind of both like turned the keys inside yourself and you both will begin your awakening process. And there are others that are in your soul group that are beginning your awakening process and they're going to naturally migrate towards you. And It'll be you, the person that has free will, to recognize that they're part of your soul group because they're so akin to everything that is you. They have so many relations to you, the subjects they like, the ways they study, the way they live. Be very similar to you.
Okay. And then on a real life plain issue, do you see, in other words, I'm actually in the process of securing new employment?
There is a new job there. And I sense some traveling with that job. Maybe a little bit of a relocation. When I say that as you may be driving 60 miles one way, and what they're saying is if there's a job that has you drive 60 miles one way, that's universe telling you that 60-mile trip is your opportunity to turn off the world and turn on the silence when you're driving. They're really telling you need to have zero sound during your day at some point. There's always too much noise around you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have some concern about how to best act as a healing force for one of my sons. Actually, for both of my sons, but one in particular.
The one son you're thinking about, he's soul contracted to go through this, and you're soul contracted to understand that you can lead him to water, but you can't make him drink.
Okay.
Okay. And he's a very young soul. He chose you for a very specific reason because we're going through a very specific change. That son you're thinking about did not come from the same soul group that you came from on the outside Alcyon moon as a fish spirit. He was a two-legged thing, and from Arcturus. So he co-located his life force into the Pleiadian area, Alcyon area, and began to have lives as different creatures in that area. So when he came here, he found a mother and a father that had similar DNA, and he wasn't a part of your soul group, and you guys made the first contract to have him here now, because he's going to awaken his Arcturian side once he goes through the awakening process that the world does. Don't really expect him to be awake that much or to be that receptive to healing until he's had literally the knock on the head and the wake-up call that many other people are going to go through when the event comes.
Okay.
What's his issue, drugs?
A prescription.
Yep. Honestly, every time you smell horrible stench off his feet, he's doing drugs. He's doing your feet are the best location to tell if somebody's abusing prescription drugs. They stink horrible.
No, this is in other words, this is as provided by a doctor.
Okay. What is for some kind of antipsychotic?
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, he's going through this on purpose. Just much like you came in with a crown chakra that was camouflaged to make you look like an unprepared soul, he did the reverse. He came in here with a crown chakra that was looking for the forces of domination to come and control and to dominate him for a specific reason. For every ounce of domination they give him, he gets to be repaid this world with 1,000 points of light when he awakens.
Okay.
So it's once the system manifests that there's going to be change and we have an event, spirits like your son that are going through that will rapidly awaken, will rapidly shed off the sickness and disease that was forced on them, and they'll awaken to their true soul purpose, and they'll have a light inside them that is unlike anything else. It'll be a true Arcturian light. He's going to be like an Arcturian oracle, is what I'll describe him. If those other souls are from Arcturus, he will be able to access specifically the Arcturian records, similar to the way that I do, so he can identify the point in time that the spirit had incarnations in Arcturus and what it was incarnating there, because Arcturus is a very special high-dimensional planet that for souls to get there, they have to be really evolved. And when they leave with such a high evolution. They're bringing this high evolution vibration to other souls so that they can grow in the world really fast.
Okay, I can believe all that about this person, yes. Okay. So just do what I can, and that's the way it'll be.
All right. It's the way you can be. Just keep loving them and understand you're going through this rewiring process, and kind of just have that smile and know that this has been planned.
Okay. Thank you so very much. A lot of this makes sense.
You're welcome. And if you want to listen to another thing with Chris and me, you go to Wolf Spirit Radio, and you can go to the archives over there. It's a brand new show I just did with him and Gordon Gianotto.
Perfect. I'm definitely going to do that. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy.
So now I want to jump into a part where you're going to go to next, which is talking about the Akashic Records. I've had many people on my show have done Akashic Records reading. Kelly Jones, one of my favorite. With the Akashic Records, and I've had numerous callers call in, that to me is the best way to really home in on where your genetic soul traces have come from. I believe I'm from the star of Arcturus, where my soul originally was birthed. And I incarnated here as an Arcturian, and as soon as I learned that, next thing you know, I have all these different Arcturian friends as well. It's like you just said, our soul families are coming back together. So can you go into a little bit more of the Akashic Records, how that can help us? How does that bring in our soul families by accessing that information?
All right, so the way I observe and read the Akashic Record, which makes me different from a variety of others, when I was 9 years old, I had an experience at a baseball game. It was bottom of the ninth inning, tied score, and our team hit a home run, and everyone cheered. At that moment, everyone in the stadium, everyone watching on television, everyone that was in observance of that stadium or watching that game, I suddenly knew who they were, what they were, past, present, and future. And that, as a 9-year-old kid, I began to learn to multidimensionally think, multidimensionally understand, and take up the mantle of responsibility that using that information in polarity or charge will create negativity. When I retain a neutral perspective and do not allow the information to change me in any way, shape, or form other than learning it and expanding my knowingness, the information is free, and it is always an expansion and contraction of knowingness, so it can be translated from a frequency of light to this frequency now. What also makes me a little bit different is I'm not reading just the Akashic Record of this world. I am reading it of 20,000 simultaneous worlds. By the time I was 15, I understood the responsibility of what came, having that knowledge. This is where I understood the deeper process of soul immigration and soul commerce. You have a star, and that star is a variety of soul families on a bigger scale who have come together and densified into a manifestation, and they create an immigration pattern from other stars who may need thinkers, atheists, mathematicians, or a warrior, and they're trading with someone else who needs healers, doctors, and other people to fill up the society of what they're going to create. This creates a soul commerce market in a galactic-wide and universal scale. So streams of light who are Arcturians and reached a 5th density or 6th density expression and want to create another version of themselves that will go out and learn another perspective, another path. And when that path is done, it'll return and create what's called a master collective for the avatar. So these are how soul families were formed through this spiritual commerce network. Here on Earth, we have a reincarnation layer and an incarnation layer. Earth is naturally an incarnating world, and reincarnation was brought here. And the system of the archons filters the incarnators and reincarnators who are creating spiritual contracts but are trying to deal with the system of domination and control. The system of domination and control's purpose is to make sure you and I are not born in the right and proper soul family. Because if we do, we will have the greatest ability growing up to be the greatest projectors, the greatest healers, the greatest teachers, etc., etc. So they have strived to make sure soul families are separate by creating separation and duality in our physical minds between our dream world and how we do esoteric practices, rituals, and spirituality. In our physical language, they have changed the way words work, pray, P-R-E-Y, P-R-A-Y, so on and so forth. There are a variety of things that separate us. And then there are laws that also separate soul families, and how the Babylonian money curse also separates us. So there are a variety of protocols installed by the system to make sure when we are born that we don't meet our soul family. That a form of negative synchronicity adds up through the value of debt of this whole world. One of the big teachings that I speak about when it's relating to soul family, you could have someone who is in a particular lineage who has created a life as a fetus in the womb that was supposed to be a doctor of great healing. By the time they got into their first year of college, they were so sick of the way the education system, instead of becoming a grand surgeon and healing people, they went into law and found themselves entangled with the system of law and not the true people that they wanted. There's a large variety of stuff. It includes military, the retail, and the restaurant industry, all bring people into a lower density of frequency in which they are exchanging freely the most polluted energy that is around there. There's also no teaching of spiritual hygiene. When one comments, projects and practices a regular form of spiritual hygiene, soul family members become more close to you. We are innately attracted to each other in what's called 1 degree of separation. Everyone you have ever heard, met, read, studied with, every person that's ever heard your voice is in this potential of 1 degree of separation. And when we're born on this world, we have a potential of 1 degree of separation that says, I can come together with soul families. And the great mystery that's working through the source that all this is, we simply must learn equal co-creation, non-hierarchal order, and naturally the soul family synchronicities will return to us. On a little bigger scale, there are millions and millions of soul families who have used different lineages here on Earth to store information in. So when you get born into a very rare lineage, you could have the value of 7 million years of our history and the internal secret practices of those families, where some other DNA lineage could have almost nothing. You were just a potato farmer who became an industrial worker, and by the time that individual was born in 1959, it was imprinted through their mother and father and their ancestral lineages, and they truly weren't able to become the spiritual scientists or anything else that they want. They were limited because their soul family energy wasn't a part of the initial imprint that was co-creating the growing life.
Wow, that really hit home for me. Made so much sense. I've had Akashic Records readings before, and Krista, who's on here, who just was thanking everyone, she channels the Orion High Council, and when they went to access my records, they were not able to because of my higher self has a protection around it. So the higher council had to ask my permission to access my records, just like you were just saying.
So Arcturians have a collective of collectives, and then a master collective and a master collective, and it's a dolma. They also are able to do what's called forking their source stream. So this will be probably just for you and a handful of others that might understand this scale of information. So when you are a source stream, that means you are I am realized in Arcturus, meaning you've reached your form of ascension or going from 6th to 7th density, and you can simultaneously exist in multiple incarnations as a forked source stream connected to the celestial mind that you're living on. So we're simultaneously born on Arcturus, simultaneously born here. Your simultaneous version of the self has reached its 6th to 7th density, and it is now co-creating an equal value with you. So you can raise to 7th density, communicate to the celestial mind, and then become the celestial medium. So when the Orion Council wanted to tap into that layer, it needed permission from the celestial mind that is co-creating at the Akashic record and the collective of collectives, because there is a hierarchical expression in learning the scales and responsibility at the celestial level. Thus why you are part of putting a conference like this together.
That makes, yes. Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate that.
Oh, I've got a call. Just a second here. 512, your name and where you're calling from?
My name's Dave. I'm calling from Austin, Texas.
Hi, Dave. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Good. How can I help you today?
Well, I was just calling in. I was kind of interested in your show and kind of wanted to get a reading.
Okay. Have you ever had a reading before by anyone else?
Well, yeah.
Okay. How long have you been listening to the show?
The reading may be a bit different than others.
Oh, yeah. How long have you been listening to the show for?
I've been listening to the show mostly on like YouTube-ish type stuff, you know. I haven't been able to match up the times. I've been wanting to call in for a while, and this morning I remembered that this was the morning I could call in, so I jumped on the chance. Well,
it's great. So you've heard readings before, so what I need you to do is to tell me your first 10 minutes of your day, combine it into 40 seconds, be detailed, and I'll tune into your dream energies. You can just say, do it out loud.
Okay, the first few minutes of my day, woke up, woke my daughter up, started putting together, you know, her lunch and that type of thing. All
right, I've tuned into you. The first thing that I get from you, there's a tremendous spiritual energy that's coming to you right now. You're going through an actual change in spirit. There's been a great life change into you where you've had to take a whole new layer and a whole new step to the love of your life that is not only your child and your family, but that is bringing other future energies to the family. This sharing and quicking is like there's a great shaman of the future within you, dancing a pattern so that you of the past and of the present now can begin to tap his toe in that rhythm. It's beginning to give you the peek into your very needs that you have right now. The very needs that are coming for you are coming from your higher soul, your higher spirit that's telling you that this world is about to change. And the only way it can change is if more people are like your daughter in that innocent state where they haven't been broken, where they can be truly an innocent child playing with heart and love. And when you see that, you know that people have a very difficult time to do that. And you wanted to pass this wisdom and knowledge on to them, but you've been running into the brick wall or the proverbial square peg in the round hole. Is this making sense to you?
Yeah, pretty good, yeah.
Okay. The square peg in the round hole. What this is you come from a different truth right now. You're going to be learning in your own dream times, if you should choose to explore them, that you really didn't born on Earth. You've lived lifetimes here, and you were asked to come here at the end with a soul family, and you were very hesitant upon it because you knew at this end time here that it would get really bad and that some of the souls that you brought with you and your soul family wouldn't fare well. So you came in with that truth and came in with that power of spirit, but you also came in with the fact that you're an Arcturian spirit from the planet of Arcturus. That truth is beginning to resonate in you and allowing you to advance into that wisdom. But for you, the previous lifetimes you lived here, you were what's called a weather wizard. You lived in the Celtic areas, and you would use the various stone structures to call upon the thunder beings of the planet to bring lightning and thunder and rain, and to use them in many methods, not only for the crops, but for war also. You were managing to take thunder and lightning and turn it into a weapon to save the people for many generations, but ultimately it was lost as a new religion overtook it. And that was the great pain to your soul, one of the reasons you left, because you couldn't use the power of the earth to defend the earth anymore because they had changed the spiritual contracts of this place. So as you left, you didn't tell your story. You took it with you back to Arcturus and shared it there with Morum until finally you built a rather big soul army. And when I say army, you came here to bring love to this world, to bring change to this world, to not bring domination and control. And that story of your past life is now becoming present in you now, but you're getting, again, at that square peg and round hole moment where your soul isn't able to take all of that energy and translate to your physical body and to your physical mind because you haven't gone through the true process of the vision quest yet. There is a part of your soul that has to honor the past life, the present lives, and the future lives. And for you to seek and find those answers of the Arcturian side of you, you must give yourself a pilgrimage to a place of power. Is this connecting with you?
Well, that kind of explains a lot of things. One of my very clear visions about the past is me I've been an entertainer, and I think the last gig I played was in front of 43,000 people, or 53. It was at the Cotton Bowl. And it's like I have this remembrance of always being in front of 1,000 people and having this position. And, it's been quite a number of years going through this scenario that I'm involved in now. And it appears to be getting better, as it seems as if the world is going in a direction that could be viewed as not better, Mm-hmm. Seems like my life continues to get better. Yep. And I maybe you can help me understand why the amount of fear that I deal with and anxiety that I still deal with. And it seems as if, and hopefully you can maybe give me some insight, because it seems as if at times there's almost a switch that would flip, and I can go from this being in this anxiety, depressed type feeling to just moving out of it. And I became conscious of that about 10 years ago, and it's just amazing to me that I can be in this bad place. And then it's as if somebody flips a switch somewhere, and I go to this other place. So I wish I could have some kind of input or understand what's happening. That's
your soul family acting right now. I'm going to relate it like this. Think of a boat anchored in a harbor, and some boats need 7 or 8 anchors to stay stable because they're offloading cargo. So your soul family is anchored in the South Pole now. And in the stream that I explained in the South Pole where all these new souls come in, your soul family came here and anchored itself in the South Pole. So all these new souls coming in got the user manual to Earth and got all the secret messages so that the fine print that people missed in these soul contracts would be explained to them fully. So they're not being taken by the scam artists of domination control on the surface. So you're one of those anchors that keeps that soul society there, and that soul society has been attacked many times. It was never dislodged, though. So when you go through these waves of understanding, it's the more souls that are literally coming to your soul group to learn those messages, to write those spiritual contracts, so that they can literally kick out domination and control and not let it scam this world anymore. That's the nature of the Arcturian people, really. You're really connected into a soul group of about 15,000 people that have incarnated on this world. For an Arcturian, that's big. That's really big. That's, as I said, like an army you formed, and you're like one of the mid-range colonels in that army. And I say that because there are souls that came here underneath you in not a form of domination, but in dominion of love, knowing that the type of anchor you had, those that were below you could bring in more souls that were protected by your oversoul contracts. So the more that you are in front of people and give out a message of vibration, doesn't matter what the message is. If you're talking on air, you're playing music in front of a crowd, you're a comedian, you are bringing a vibration forward that is connecting to the soul groups of people. Now, when you understand that layer, the very next layer that comes for you is how do you change this? How do you get deeper into it? And as I was saying in your reading, it's about the vision quest. It's about a pilgrimage to a place of power. Have you ever thought of doing a personal pilgrimage to a place of power so you may experience its energy and share a few nights of dreams with it?
Well, my life right now is pretty tight. I mean, I've been one of these folks that I addressed the bank issues and lost my home and all that type of stuff. And so I was homeless for a while, and so things have been pretty tight. I've got a place to live, and I'm paying for my daughter's school, and things are working out, but kind of waiting for the next thing to open up where I may have some freedom to have movement and maybe take a vacation or the pilgrimage you're speaking of.
Got a question. Do you live here in the States?
I live in Austin, Texas.
Okay. So you're pretty close to the ocean.
3-4 hours.
Okay. You got a big lake next to you or a river?
They have well, the lake here is pretty much dried up all the time. They do have the Colorado River, which kind of stagnantly moves through town.
Right. What I'm sensing for you is you need water energy in you. You've dried up your reserve water energies. The spots around below your kneecaps, onto the left and right of the tibia and fibia, those are your wellspring reserve energy, and those well springs have been overused and they're not giving you the water energy you need. So this is the time for you to seriously take a lot more water to your life, not by drinking it, by like sitting in it or letting it roll over you. If you need to take long showers or sit in a pool, it's very important that you begin that process. It'll help you unravel some of these nervous energies that are stuck within you, and it'll help you more understand that when there is free time and it's time for you to take a vacation, if you keep in the back of your head that it's a pilgrimage to help these new energies, even if you're going to bring your daughter with you, even if it's to Disneyland, in Disneyland itself has wonderful energies that can help heal people because of the innocence of the children that come there. So it is a pilgrimage away from the old and into the new, so where you're let go of that energies. So that's ultimately what pilgrimage is, where you've let go of your home energy, you've traveled to an area, and you're going to share energy with it. And then when it's time to sleep in that area, you're going to give yourself conscious awake time to tell yourself to dream with this area, to experience its energies. I'm also getting, there's a lot of healing spirits around you. Is someone around you an energy healer or a massage therapist?
I'm pretty much alone here. I don't know. Not really.
Do you have a friend that's into like psychic readings and stuff?
I have a close friend that's an astrologer. Does astrology.
Do you speak to them often?
I've got a friend that I speak to often, and he's kind of like a coach, but he doesn't identify himself as being somebody that does this or that, if you know what I'm trying to say.
I do. And the reason I say that is there's the spirit guides that you have right now are literally offering me a wooden medicine bowl. And I say that is this bowl is ancient from your spirit and is an item of power that you created with your hands in an old lifetime that allowed the concept of plant energy and plant medicine to be put upon this bowl and then to be crushed into a powder or a paste. And it was like a pedestal, but that pedestal absorbed the energy of the plant, and then the person that held that would convert that energy pedestal of the plant to his soul, so they learn the message of the plant. Now this is being offered to you, one of your old tools, but there has to be somebody that teaches you how to use it so that you can manifest it. You ever done woodworking in your life?
Not really.
Well, they're saying that there's someone around you that can teach you these skills. And there's someone around you that can help you go through this process of changing where you manifest something from the dream world to your physical world. As an Arcturian, you can do that innately. You just haven't been taught how to do it yet.
Well, that's kind of the theme that I feel is that, I'm not very happy because I think that I've lost my magic, per se, but I feel as if it's coming back.
Well, you lost your magic for a reason. 2012 was a big beatdown on the Arcturians. So I told you about that soul group that's manifested there. They may have beat them down, but they didn't kick them out. So that's what you have to understand. There was a pullback of the Arcturian energy. And what the Arcturians did when they realized some of their anchor points were under attack, other Arcturians formed these vehicles of hope and change. And what it was several dozen high-energy Arcturian teacher spirits coalesced all of their energy into a single amalgamation of energy and then shot themselves across the void of the galaxy and for thousands of years until they finally reached Earth by traveling the Great Void and entering the upper atmosphere of the dream time, and then going from dream time to physical reality. And there were these balls of light that travel between chakra points and chakra points, creating a vehicle of hope and change, because that was the purpose of the skulls that came together. In 2012, these vehicles, hope and change, literally turned the tides from negative to positive when their various wildfires of disinformation or information came out and were finally proven, accepted, or disproven, or just taken to effect that it was part of 2012, and no one really cares anymore because we're 2013 now. So you must understand that these vehicles of hope and change are around you, and you can ask them to come to you because you are Arcturian in nature. And once they come, things will change. The people you need will manifest, but this requires a leap of faith from your heart to that South Pole communication area.
So what would the leap of heart maybe look like, so I can understand what that...
Honestly, is you need to get a lot of water energy in you. Saturate yourself with water energy and just look at the sky, look to the south, and let your mind's eye literally visualize yourself looking at the Earth from the bottom of the South Pole, and then visualizing little sparkles of light there, and understanding that in that layer there are several dozen other layers you could choose to see if you ask them to help you understand it, so you may gain the endurance of vision so you may stay in those vision areas. Because in those vision areas is where the Arcturians exist.
So you know what I'm looking for here, and I appreciate your time. I really do. A lot of it, I mean, my brain can't understand what you're saying, but that's okay. But my main question to you, and it might be a question that you've been answering, but you know, I've kind of been in this place where it's been uncomfortable at this point, and I'm hoping that and working towards and trying to allow the rest of my life be in a different mode than it has been. And I'm wondering, is that kind of where this is headed for me?
Yes. The more you take the time to recognize your soul family, that of the Arcturians, the more you understand that you have a father, a mother, a brother, and a sister that are waiting for you to communicate with them. And then once you actually begin that process, there'll be soul tears on the other side because you've broken through. You've completed your contracts. You've survived. You didn't let this world beat you down. So it's really about expressing the shaman inside you.
I felt as if I've really been reaching out for many years, and nobody shows up.
Well, that's the thing. You're not reaching into the right place. You're not allowing yourself to see the 7 layers beyond the only single layer that you see. And that's because much of your crown chakra was protected, because the Arcturians, when they come in this world, are like shining beacons of light for the forces of domination and control. So once they find them, they take them, they turn them into super soldiers, or they kill them, or they turn them into breeding groups. So
I've been very fortunate here because in some way I've been totally protected. I'm kind of out of the loop, like as if they couldn't find me.
Right. You're an anchor spirit dug deep into the earth.
Gotcha.
It all relates. As an anchor spirit, you are deeply related to Earth. That means the previous lifetimes you lived here as the weather warrior, as the weather wizard. That just shows how deep your Earth connection is. So when you left, you didn't tell the world your story, which means that the surface world of surface intelligence wasn't prepared for when you came back. So you have a story of spirit to tell, but you got to tell it to yourself first.
I gotcha. Well, this is a beautiful time you're offering me here, because that's my question. It's like I've been realizing that I call it faith, but I'm not looking for faith. I'm looking for the story.
Right.
To connect me to myself.
Right. And that's why I do this 8 hours a week, because I know that every drop I change with each person that I help, that it changes the 7 future generations of the people that are there. I've lived and co-lived and existed in the South Pole and the North Pole at the same time, as a separated dream time and as a unified dream time. So I thoroughly understand the process that people are going through here, and it's just a matter of me having the time to literally translate it to the specific message that person needs. Like you just said, you needed to hear the story, not the faith part behind it.
Well, I have to admit that most of everything you said, on one level, I get a drift of it, but basically, mostly, I don't understand, but I understand that your words are allowing my frequency to change, and your voice. And I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak to you. I knew when I just heard a little bit of your voice and what you had to say that I wanted to have to speak to you. And so where might I want to go and kind of keep connected to try to facilitate the story of who I am and to my understanding?
As I said, the first thing you need is water energy. So maybe after this phone call, maybe let's finish listening to the show and go take a half-hour shower. Let the water run over. If you have a bathtub or a swimming pool, go into it.
Okay.
You need to get water energy. Saturate yourself. Do it 2 or 3 days. And as you're doing it, you're either going to have to write down some of your thoughts, because once you get out of the water, your thoughts are going to be very different. And those initial thoughts that you have when you get out of the water have all the extra water energy you need, so you understand that you're going to start saturating the parts of your body that need the water to create the dream environment, so you can communicate to those people in a method and manner that you, the physical person that's trying to understand, can understand. It'll probably be coming at beginning between writing back and forth. And from after writing, you'll be able to read some of your writings out loud before you go to bed. And that will challenge the Dreamtime version of you to listen to you. So you're fighting the autopilot of the ego that makes you forget your dreams in the morning, as well as your dreams, as your actual dreams you have while you're existing. Because when I dream myself part of the dream. Many other people don't dream themselves in the dream because they don't literally have the leftover memory space inside their body to keep that dream energy there.
I relate to that.
So what I'm going to say is, do you have any crystals in your house?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay. You got any kosher salt, rock salt, or anything like that?
Yeah.
So you get a regular little sandwich plastic Ziploc bag, put a cup of salt in it and one crystal, and I want you to put it over your tailbone, like in between your pants and your shirt. Make a second one, put a salt and a crystal in it, and I want you to put it on the back of your head, and I want you to lay down after you've been in the water. And what that's going to do is going to literally clear out the memory zones of those areas so that more infinite energy of the dream time can take root there. You're an anchor spirit, so naturally once you give space and spot for roots to grow to that dream world, you'll begin to change at a much more rapid pace, as well as understand the growth patterns you're going through.
That I can do. Yeah, I will do that immediately.
Okay. Well, I have another caller. Why don't you call back in a couple days and tell us how things are going?
I will. Thank you very much.
All right.
Hallo?
Hello, and this is Caroline?
No, Claudia.
Claudia. I am sorry.
Claudia, yeah. Goedemorgen from Holland. Good morning.
Good morning to
good evening
you.
to you.
So
Hello?
how did you find out about the show?
Oh, well, I was surfing the internet on YouTube, and I came across your material of the 20 Galactic series of the Galactic history, and I got so inspired by that I started to translate it in Dutch for all the Dutch people here, because I was so in awe of the material. I thought, well, people have to know about this. So you're my inspiration. What can I say?
So
So,
what kind of questions did you have for me, or did you just want me to just jump into a reading? Your choice. You have the Akashic record of this world and 20,000 other worlds open to you. No pressure.
well, since I'm so interested in Earth history, how fit I into that history? That's a very big question with me. Where do I come from? What's my soul family? And yeah, you go ahead and. You know.
All right. Well, what I want you to do is I'm going to tune deep into your energies. I want you to tell me about the first 10 minutes of your day when you first woke up. What did you do in that mechanical moment when you first woke up? Did you remember a dream? Did you rub your eyes? Give me about 10 seconds, 20 seconds out loud, and I'll tune into that Akashic record of you waking up.
Well, can I tell about yesterday's dream? Because this morning was very early, and I woke up by the how do you call it?
Alarm clock?
I don't know how to the word. The clock, the alarm clock, yes. So can I tell yesterday's dream?
Yeah, tell me about yesterday's dream.
Because it was about you.
Okay, go ahead, tell me.
I dreamt how I woke up, and I was thinking, what did I dream? What did I dream? And I thought, oh my God, I dreamt about me having the reading with you. And then you told me something very, very special, something very unique. And I don't remember what it was. And then I woke up again. And so it was like a dream within a dream, something like that. So do you want me to go on?
I've tuned into you, and you have the classic questions: who you are, where did you come from, how you're affected in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a story here, and it's going to go a little back and forth, and it's going to show patterns of what you've been doing. So the last lifetime that you incarnated was in about 1760, 66, 1765 is where you died. You were born in about 1720, right around there, and you were in Sri Lanka, traveling on a boat. You died on the ocean, traveling between Sri Lanka and the island of Bali, delivering sacred geometry goods. All right, I'm pasting a story. Grab out of the timeline here. Just a second here. I'm separating your timeline. The life in Sri Lanka. Okay, this is a lifetime that is your anchor lifetime into this end game. You, similar to the other caller, were locked into a non-end game, stuck on the four paradox timelines with no way to manifest your way off unless someone opened a doorway into your mind so that you could come into the dream world and create yourself in the dream world in the end, and then reach back to all the parts in the timelines and paradoxes and connect to yourself and soul shards and then show them the way home by creating maps. Your life in Sri Lanka at this time in that 1700 time frame, you were a very young kid that became a fisherman, and from fisherman you became a person of merchants, and you got hired onto a vessel that was going to Bali. It was a British sailing vessel. When it landed in Bali, there were Balinese sorcerers there waiting for the sacred geometry objects that were offloaded, and the Balinese sorcerers looked at the British people and said, I'm going to buy you, you, and you. And the British said, okay, and they sold you, even though you were never intended to be sold. So you were a slave at that point. In Bali, island of the gods, as part of a karmic resolution being. Now, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, wow. I mean, I had an Indonesian mother in this lifetime.
You have a Balinese mother. Nice.
Indonesian, Javanese.
Java. Well, as you got into Bali, and they bought you as a slave, they weren't nice to you, and quite unnice, actually. Very little food, very little water for a very long period of time, until they came to you and gave you a piece of sacred geometry artwork and said, figure out how to use it before you die, and you can go free. Okay, and it was a stone statue that had no moving parts. So you were in your little cell that had underground, that had a little grate that you could look above, and the light would come through every now and then. From morning to night, you had about 5 hours of light that you would move your body into, barely weak. And you'd drag this thing over there and look in everything that could be moved. And shortly before you thought you were going to die, you put your hands on the statue and you said, "I surrender to the earth." And then the statue came alive and hugged you and brought you into the arms of the Earth Mother. And at that point, the gates opened and you were inducted into a Balinese Earth shamaning group that specialized in geomancy and repairing Earth's sacred geometry grid as it was being attacked at that moment by the British. And there was an open trade between the Balinese sorcerer and the different British groups for sacred geometry technology. The Balinese is the island of the gods for a very reason. All the gods were locked onto Bali and were vowed from affecting the rest of the creation of the system of domination and control in this timeline that is not a paradox yet. Because the only way to end it is everything that was created before makes it here in its perfect format. So in the perfect format, all beings can create perfection. And what is perfection? When one single moment that we all let down to the Earth Mother, where we let go of the facade and don't let ourselves die, where we take the power of the Earth Mother and blend it in co-creation with our own heart, activate our DNA. So once you became inducted into geomancy, into earth sorcery, you began traveling on special Balinese boats that would go to Japan and work with the Shinto priests. And there is where you would walk through portals, and you would be 1,000 years in the past or 10,000 years in the past on another paradox timeline, looking for other versions of yourself so you could point them in the right direction to make sure you got onto that boat to be sold as a slave.
Oh, wow. Was it a life as a man? Or?
That was a life as a man, correct.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's your frequency. Forced into slavery. But in slavery, you found your purest solitude. How did your life begin? This life now you have.
Yeah.
How much have you been battling the slave program?
Well, I think my father is from has African heritage, and my mother is from Java, Indonesia, and they're both former Dutch colonies. So through my bloodlines, I felt I had to heal and clear a lot, and that's all I've been doing my whole life, it seems.
Resolving other people's karma through your DNA lineage technology. So when are you going to resolve your karma and not other people's karma? That's what this lifetime is about. You need to know your purpose. Your purpose is to literally solely focus on your own karma so that you become a karmaless being and therefore free all of your other brothers and sisters that are linked to your DNA lineage technology.
So what's my next step then to do that?
It's about understanding the person that surrendered to the earth, that didn't allow themselves to die. You have to take it to a more modern way. You live in a world that's 3D matrix, and you still need food and water. You still need love and support. You can't be the shaman in the cave or the Buddha up under the tree for years. You have to do it in the now so that other people see that they can do it too. For every hour that you're healing yourself, you're doing 6 or 7 hours of healings on other versions of beings who are helping themselves resolve karma, because you've taken an I am presence time now to resolve your DNA lineage technology. So how do you do that? Well, what have you been doing the past 6 months?
Working on myself. really.
Doing what? Meditations, healings? Have you gone under a waterfall? I mean, have you gone exotic?
Sorry, I didn't understand it.
Have you done anything more exotic? Maybe ayahuasca?
No. Do you think that's an option for me, ayahuasca?
Not only do I think it's an option, I think that any plant medicine in sacred format that has a shaman by it will help you go by light years.
Okay.
So it really comes down to, what are you ready for as a brand new explorer in consciousness? Because you haven't explored your own DNA resolution. As much as you think you're resolving your stuff this lifetime, you came in with ancestral karma, and that's actually what you're solving. It's not yours. You asked what you're here to do. Resolve your own, not others. See what is being passed on to you as ancestral karmic debt from your mother and father in unawareness.
Okay.
What was your mother and father like?
They were pretty much dysfunctional through all the hardships they went through.
Okay. So as a child growing up, it's
But
fair to
they were loving people.
Right. So as a child growing up, it's fair to say that you got impressed into your belief system about how dysfunctional they could be, and that they couldn't heal, they could never get centered, they could never get balanced. And now this part of your life where you're trying to do that, those foundational programs that were impressed into you as a kid are the only thing holding you back.
Okay.
Okay. What was it like when you were 13 and 14? I'm tuning into your Akashic record, and I see a whole lot of spiritual change for you.
What? When I was 13?
Yeah,
what?
13 to 14.
What was I doing?
Yeah, where were you living?
I think. Well, my parents separated then. They got divorced.
Where were you living?
At my parents' house.
What country? Holland?
And yeah.
Same house
Yeah.
that you grew up in?
The same house I grew up in, yes.
All right, there's an Akashic record moment right when you're turning 14, a few months before you're turning 14, where you're coming home from school and there's a lost memories there. There's as much as 60 minutes of your life that doesn't exist.
Oh.
You ever think about maybe you had been abducted?
Abducted?
Yeah.
Well, no. But it happened then?
Do you remember at all missing time in your life?
No. No.
How much
But
of your...
yeah, actually...
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I do, because everything seems like a blur when I was in the puberty. So it was very not defined. I was very unhappy with them.
You had Arcturian consciousness exploration vessels removing you from the reality between age 13 and 24.
Okay. So,
Are you familiar with the Arcturians? Are you familiar with the Arcturians?
Well, I've heard about them, but not what they're about.
Okay, they come from a home planet called Arcturus. They are our fifth and sixth density beings of light that operate on collectives of collectives. They're the good guys, as one could say. What is good or what is bad? It doesn't really matter. But their perspective comes from a very positive change for Earth. And they come here to Earth looking for other members of the Arcturian soul families. And you're part of...
So I'm Arcturian?
You're part of an Arcturian soul family that was soul sharded during a massive uncreational event while you were traveling here to Earth during dimensional portals to try to save other beings here, and got caught in a timeline genocide, and your DNA was not supposed to be mixed with it. So when the creational event came back around, you were soul sharded. Part of yourself was stuck here, and the rest of yourself was put back on Arcturus with full knowledge that it was still stuck here. And that created you what's called to be a forked source stream.
A what? The last time I didn't understand. A fork?
F-O-R-K, like a fork. Like there's two parts of you.
Okay, wow.
One simultaneously living as a 6th density being on the homeworld of Arcturus, and one simultaneously living here that is you of the now. One in awareness of you, and you are in unawareness of it. Until you go to resolve your paradox, which is, why are you dual located as not in hive dream space? One of the reasons you connected to the material that I do so deeply is because it creates a no-time field. And as soon as an Arcturian's in no-time field, they can understand why they're a forked source stream. If they should choose to do the inner work on their heart, where they allow their mind to go into their heart. They allow their whole body to shrink back into the fetus in the mother's womb, where you were just a heart with a soul inside it. And from there is where you can truly connect into what your DNA purpose is, resolving karma. This part of you that is soul sharded in here is the karmic resolution machine. And the I am presence that is you in the now can make a choice at any point to not be a karmic resolution machine anymore. And then once you say no, it takes a short while for the system to stop working against you. That's why things like contract revocation are so important for you in this phase where you're hitting the brakes and saying no to karma and coming into a stillness of balance, going back to the center of your heart so you can realize that you are in two places at once. And every time that you go to sleep, you are looking for the no-time frequency that your body can create as a hyperspark right as your dreaming body opens up like a flower.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
So what other kind of questions do you have?
Well, so what can I do? What do I have with the reptilian factor? I mean, that interests me also very much, and maybe do I have much reptilian DNA as well?
Well, you are in DNA lineage technology that is karmic resolution technology. As you said, your Javanese parents. Well, what do you know about the islands of Java? Who are the natives?
What do we have what?
Who are the natives of Java?
Sorry. I can't understand you. The line is very bad.
Who are the natives of Java? Do they really exist?
The natives.
Mm-hmm. Their DNA stream has been so muddled down that there's no true Javanese. They're all sea traveling and seafaring people that have set lives there over hundreds of epochs. That means the DNA body you're in has reptilian in it. And that means you want to resolve other lifetimes where you may have had more reptilian DNA than you do Arcturian DNA right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why going back to the heart at the 0 point in the fetus of mother's womb is the key for you to reconnecting to the source that allows soul shards to naturally reconnect while you're in dream space. You are a very, very protected being by the Arcturians. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to put you at the bank vault level, like an 8 or a 9. Why? Because the DNA lineage that you made it in has a very unique 1 degree of separation. It's not giant, it's actually quite small. But your 1 degree of separation touches souls that have been locked out of existence for millions and millions of years. Many of them don't even have access to this non-paradoxal time existence yet. But because you exist here with a light-bodied DNA intermixed with a DNA lineage, there is an opportunity, if you should create the potential, to not only unify your own soul shards, but all the other soul shards of every being that's in your DNA lineage technology. So not only would you heal yourself, you would heal 25,000 others instantly by doing it to yourself, out of love for yourself. That's how much they are implicitly interwoven to your time traveler DNA that started in Bali.
Wow. Wow. Oh, that's profound, yeah.
So when you were writing the different radio shows into the Dutch language, did you have any experiences?
Well, sometimes I get insights.
Yeah.
You know,
I had a lot of
knowing things
that the only way for them to understand the material was to transcribe it themselves. And once they did that, they got into the signature frequency of the Akashic record at a neutral perspective in intonation and vibration, and it would open portals in themselves, created by themselves in other timelines and dimensions. Once you had the no-time frequency, your other parts of yourself did the soul surgery on you to fix whatever was broken in your timelines.
Wow.
And that's something that I'm consciously aware of when I work with people. So it would probably be very, 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 very beneficial for you if you tried transcribing this reading for you after it's put back on air. We'll get you a download right away, too. And the reason why is there's so many layers of information in here. Many, many layers for you to begin to pick apart. And for those other people that are listening to this reading, we are beings of karmic resolution until we say no. And when we choose to say no, there are other versions of ourselves that have already said no and have options waiting for us if we should begin the translation and transcription of what's going on at the infinite level with us, so that we have some scribblings or scratchings or long documents that this presence can go, all right, I can absorb this because I wrote it. And it doesn't matter what anyone else says or does.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I must listen to this. Well, I will transcribe this, of course, in Dutch, and I see what it does to me. So you say that am I still being abducted right now, or has it stopped?
Okay, you aren't being abducted in a negative way. All right. It's hard to describe when you lose time. What it is there's consciousness exploration vehicles that can predict if you become predictable and wake up before your time of waking up. And what they would do was come to you a few seconds before you woke up and put a dimensional field around you so that you woke up and fell right back to sleep outside of time, and then they put you back in your body. The Arcturians are the good guys, but they also know if you wake up early, not only will you be captured, you will be turned against everyone else.
Well, that's what I feel. Yeah, that's what I felt. That some force is holding me back in some way or form. So this makes totally sense to me.
And the reason why is you need what's called sacred space, where your heart is feeling good enough to let down in such a way that you can turn on the smile and create something out of joy in that sacred space that evolves into a ceremonial expression of who you are this lifetime. I call this telling your story to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have an indoor and outdoor fire, and you go, I'm going to sit down next to this fire in sacred space and tell it my whole story. And it's no one else needs to be there, just you and that fire. And once you trust yourself to tell yourself your whole story in the witness of an element, is where you get inducted to being a fire shaman. And as being a fire shaman is where you will connect to the other versions of yourself who have gifts waiting for you. Because they knew you would ultimately do it, but only you are the one that actually can do it, in no interference. That's why you have to find a sacred space or create one in your own place that isn't violated by others. And because you have so much slave programming built inside your DNA from the system, I'm going to tell you, you are going to have a very hard time finding a place that is your own without interference, without the phone calling, without people stopping over, so you can trust yourself enough days in a row to tell your whole story to that fire, and then allow yourself to process all of the visions that come afterwards as a dreamer. As a person with no limitations in dreaming, connected to your dream world, disconnected from materialism and consumerism, connected to the lands you live in. What I suggest for you is to get really witchy for the next 2 or 3 months. To really look at your day. Yeah, like a practicing of spirituality. And witchy, it's an American term where you go, everything you do is very, very respectful to nature. You make sure that each day you get up, you give an offering to nature, whether it's an apple or a piece of bread, knowing that it fulfills something to the food chain out there. Yeah, there are other people that offer a shot of alcohol to the land. That is spirits, distilled energy. That is something that'll be very, very powerful for you. You have dozens of lifetimes where you were a brewer of rum and alcohol and other stuff. That may be considering for you to start using alcohol as your way of blessing or giving offerings to the land. 2, you got to figure out what can you do to make sacred space that has fire in it.
That has what in it?
Fire.
Fire in it. Okay.
Have you ever done any shaman work?
Sorry, I can't understand you.
Have you
ever what?
Have you done any shaman work?
No, I didn't actually. No.
Okay.
No.
That's what I'm telling you. You need in your life so that you can stop being a karmic resolving being. You need to be connected.
Do you have material for me where I can delve into?
I'll have the way you got a hold of email. I'll have someone send you a bunch of links that you can go and get into. A book that I can recommend for you to read is called Dancing the Dream by Jamie Sams.
Okay.
And I'll have them send that to you in email too. It's a very good book for anyone that's out there. It will help you understand the journey of a shaman. Jamie Sams is a Native American lady of Sioux and Navajo background. And it's about her story growing up in a broken home, taken away from her parents, then becoming a shaman, recognizing her roots, and going through the different training processes. And what it was her life of transformation. I read this book when I was 14, and I recommend it to many people who want to understand what being shaman means. And it's called Dancing the Dream.
Okay.
It's readily available on Amazon. It's been out since the early 90s. Okay, do you have any more questions?
Hello?
Hi, do you have any more questions?
Well, maybe you could tell something about Holland. I mean, what keys does Holland hold for the spiritual awakening of the planet while I live here?
Holland is a unique country. It has been flooded and destroyed hundreds of times and brought back hundreds of times. Those people that living in Holland right now are resolving the energies of the floods. Okay? People move into the most richest and fertile valleys and live there for thousands of years before the waters start to rise again and their homes and lives begin to be destroyed, and the very few survive and go back to the top of the mountains and become very connected with the mountains until the waters recede and they go back down to back down to those fertile lands again. And that's what Holland is about. For those who are going to say, no, the waters will not take my life this time. They will not take my land. And it is the power of the people of Holland that can come together to hold back the waters, or to make sure that the waters never rise from the very beginning, because in unity consciousness, the healing of the planet is instant, even though in time we perceive change. Holland is a very powerful sacred geometry area of natural Earth that has very powerful false sacred geometry buildings on top of it. It'll be the people of those areas who will dismantle their own sacred geometry systems at a time where rising up is not expected. And once those systems are dismantled, the rest that's hooked into that vital life force, that almost lung of the planet that's known as that area, will suddenly change and ring out a bell of life force that's now coming out of the earth. And it'll be the people of that area who go through the reawakening and reconnection to earth, much like you did when you connected to that statue.
Wow. Yeah. Are there important places in Holland, like and artifacts, like...
All throughout Europe, there are very powerful artifacts. Now, they're not handheld artifacts. These are the big ones that they couldn't move. Anything they couldn't move with a tractor trailer or a flatbed has already been taken care of. That I can assure you of. The big stuff that is left is well hidden. Holland has some very powerful zero-point energy fusion creation systems that aren't mechanical. They're literally built into the stone to be natural fusion energy when human DNA interacts with them at a sacred neutral perspective. That means you have unlimited access to quantum energy as an infinite being of light to manifest as a third or fourth dimensional physical being. There's unlimited energy in the land. And that's the technology that's in Holland. And it's the people that live above it who learn how to tune their DNA so that their body becomes the remote control for whatever stream of information or energy that they want to work for their creation, whether it's a painting or sheep herding, whether it's building a boat or a mountain. Doesn't matter. It has the infinite quantum creation connection to it. And that's a legacy many, many other people in our world are going to learn, and many will go to Holland to learn those skills. And then there's about a few select other places that are similar to Holland, such as the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, the Antilles Islands, the Caribbean, parts of Brazil and the Amazon, parts of Peru, parts of Java, Australia, the Great Barrier Reef. There'll be micro sections there where people can go and connect to very similar to Holland. And there'll be a big section outside of Goa, India, that will be just massive, where people want to learn to connect to that energy. They'll just go there for a few weeks and connect to that field.
Oh, wow. And do you know also why I always have to go to Greece?
Why you always have to go to Greece? It always comes to your DNA lineage technology. Everything that you're doing is still resolving other people's karma that is in your DNA lineage that are not your memories. But because your I am present self doesn't know the difference between your past life memories and someone else's past life memories, you stay as a karmic resolving being, and it appears to be free will to you. but appears.
Okay.
Until you say no to the debt you inherited being born into this lineage and accept the lineage legacy without debt.
Okay, right. Okay.
Okay. What other questions?
Me one. Hello?
How you doing?
Hello?
Do you have any other questions?
No. You told me so much for now. So I want to really thank you for everything you do, and you've inspired me so much. So
well, thank you. You've inspired me today.
I want to give.
You've inspired me today. I have to admit that.
Oh.
To be back doing a reading show is very, very a big deal for me. And for people that want to know how to get on the reading shows, we are being selective about who we bring on. I'm not doing 12 calls like I was doing before. We're bringing on people that can help teach. And she sent in a quick bio of who she was, and that's the only thing that I knew about her before. And in that bio that I read, I saw an explorer from the future. And when I got to read The Being of the Now, I saw how important it was for you to let go of karma. And that this being here in the now, once you let go of karma, my God, what I can do will look like nothing.
So, yeah, it's my potential when I do that?
Absolutely. Better than I'm doing right now. Way better. And people think I'm impressive. There are people out there that may come on a radio show that are impressive, even at my standards. And you're one of those people. Once you let go of karma, you're the genius in the room.
Wow.
Every room
this is a special thing. I think you were going to tell me what I dreamt about yesterday. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, I think that's my purpose here, and my intention is to do that, exactly that. So.
And you have to make yourself.
I think you've helped me.
You need to make yourself pretty special to yourself.
Yeah.
You got to know how much you're worth to this world.
Okay.
When you acknowledge that value, is where you break the slave program.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm intending to do that exactly. So, and I feel that you have a very big puzzle in that to help me with that, and as you already did. So, I will read the books and I will listen to this 100 times, and then I'm gonna do it. What can I say?
You have a really good day. Thank you for calling. Thank you, everyone else.
Yeah, I want to give you a big kiss for everything you for this reading and everything you do. So, maybe we see each other one time.
We're destined to meet, whether it's in the dream world or physical. That I know.
Okay. Well, see you then. Bye bye now.
Okay. But you said that the air cities don't exist
now.
Now.
They're banned from being in the North Pole.
Okay.
Part of when Atlantis began to rise, fall, three rise, three falls.
Wow.
Well, it's the same pattern as Lemuria.
Right.
Because you went through another dense part of space, light part of space, dense part of space,
right.
Light part of space.
Right.
As Atlantis reached its peak, its consciousness of its world was really about stopping these wars of invasion.
Mm.
You had all you can stands, you can't stand anymore, you're eating their spinach, and they're going to go out and kick butt and take names. And that's what they did on their first rise. Well, what happens when you kick butt and take names 1,000 years later? You get some mad people coming back.
Yeah.
It just brought a mass migration of attackers back at them.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
This puts Atlantis in a tough situation. It had a mass investment of people from Lemuria, and then a mass migration to there because the Lemurian people that were outside of time completed soul codes to other migration groups that had been missing for millions of years. So all of a sudden they're back in this matrix, and a whole big flock of people migrate here. That big flock of people, what we call refugees, worlds that were destroyed by domination and control or used up and said, we don't need this anymore, we're going to go on to the next one. Refugees came here. These refugees were in the worst healing states. They needed healers. The Lemurians interbred with the Atlanteans to create healers. The Arcturians and the Orions and the Pleiadians came here to be healers because they needed billions of healers.
Wow.
They didn't need tens of thousands, they needed billions.
Oof.
Okay, and this is what brought the galactic commerce of healers being shared among worlds.
Oh.
So that peak of Atlantis.
What other kind of questions do you have?
I'm wondering what percentage of worlds are free-willed?
Yeah, you can't really rate that because there are worlds that are half free will, half not free will.
Okay.
Or 3/4 free will and free for all on the other side. You can't rate it as a percentage.
So
Our
is it
world
given on a
is unique.
planetary or a bigger level?
No, I'm talking even if you just go at the planetary level all throughout the universe, they're all different layers of free will. Each is a different frequency of sovereignty and assists the different beings there on their particular process. We here at Earth have already done the spiritual sovereignty path of millions of other worlds. You know, to be here on Earth means you're the best of the best of the best of the last 25 million generations. If you're not ready, you're not here. Literally, everyone that's here, everyone that's listening on the call that thinks they aren't meant to be here, bullshit. You're here because you are the best of the best of the best of this universal generation.
Right.
And when you got 1 trillion geniuses that come together, there isn't anything they can figure out if they can share the common moral code of do no harm to any sentient kind. Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail. Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.